Hello YouTube family and friends, welcome back to the Photon Rookie channel. This is video number 32. My name's Jim and today we are going to do some dark nebula processing. We're going to focus on the Iris Nebula NGC 7023 and see if we can bring those dark clouds into view. Quick disclaimer, I'm still using the old version of Siril. I have not started using Siril 1.4 yet. It's in beta mode. There are still a few bugs. They've issued some patches addressing some of those bugs. As soon as it's a little more stable, I'm going to import it and start using it on this channel. Here we are in Siril, and we have the unstretched raw image of NGC 7023, the Iris Nebula, opened up here. Let's do an auto stretch real quick and see what our raw data looks like. Okay, looks like we got a good amount to work with. The Iris Nebula is a very, very dim object. You have to really have your Seestar on target for quite some time before any of this dark cloud material starts to show up. This image is comprised of a little over 9,000 10-second FITS files from the S50. That's about 25 hours of observation, but time on target really pays off on this object, as it does with most objects. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the stars. We'll come back down here to auto stretch, put the image back in linear. We're going to come up here to image processing, come down to star processing, select StarNet star removal. You want to make sure to check the pre-stretch linear image box because, of course, our image is not stretched yet. And hit the upsample ×2 and select execute. And Siril will remove the stars from the image. The stars have been removed from the image. I did a little time jump there. It took almost 2 minutes to complete that process. So we want to go ahead and save that result. Let's come back down here to the linear button and do an auto stretch again. And let's look at the nebula without the stars. So it looks pretty good. Looks like we got a lot of this dark material that showed up, and I'm hoping that we can process this and bring it out with more clarity. All right, let's go back to linear. So again, make sure you saved your result. I'm going to go to the upload button. I'm going to turn the starless image into a TIFF folder or a TIFF file. And I'm going to put it in my parking spot, which is my TIFF folder on my desktop. And I'm going to save it there so I can go grab it and process it from there. Okay, that's saved in my TIFF folder. Let's go up here to open and let's open the star mask. These are the stars that we removed from the image. We're going to go ahead and stretch this now. So let's come up here to image processing. Choose generalized hyperbolic stretch transformations. Under type of stretch, for the stars, we want to use modified arcsine transform. And under color stretch model, we want to select humid weighted luminance. All right, stars are pretty easy to stretch. I just take it up to about 7.5 to 8.5, somewhere in that neighborhood. Get plenty of stars there that we can work with later. All right, that looks pretty good. That's a pretty good star field. So I'm going to click apply. I'm going to close this box and save the result. It's real easy to forget to save your result and move on, so always remember to do that. Okay, now like the starless image, we're going to take this star mask image, hit the upload button. We're going to change it into a TIFF folder, TIFF file, and we're going to put it in the TIFF folder on the desktop and park it there with the starless image. All right, we can minimize Siril now. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to open GraXpert. Okay, GraXpert is open. We are going to now load our starless image into GraXpert. So come up here to load image. Remember, I put it in the TIFF folder on my desktop, and here's the starless image. So I'm going to select that. And GraXpert will automatically do a partial stretch on the image. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a background extraction. I remember that a lot of times when I was, night after night, when I was shooting this image with the Seestar, the moon was out, so hopefully GraXpert can help with this light area here, which I believe is due mostly to stray moonlight. So I'm going to do a smoothing of 1.0 and click Calculate Background, and let's see how it does. All right, it helped it. You can see more detail down here, and there's less light pollution. We can go up here to this box and open it up and look at the original. Go back to the original, and you can see it's this part of the sky is kind of dark. Down here it's very bright. Go back to the gradient corrected, and you can see that helped the image quite a bit. So I'm happy with that. Next, we're going to go to denoising, and I'm going to use a denoise strength of about 3/4 of the way up the slide, about 0.75, and I'm going to click denoise image. This takes a little bit longer than the background extraction. Okay, it took a couple of minutes. I did a little time jump here, but the denoising is done. So let's come down here to saving, and we're going to save the processed image. It's going to put it right back into the TIFF folder that I took it from. All right, once that's saved, you can go ahead and close GraXpert. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open Gimp. So we have Gimp open here. I'm going to come up to File, select Open, select Desktop, select my TIFF folder, and I'm going to select the starless image that has the GraXpert tag on it, because this is the one we just processed in GraXpert. You won't see anything because it's not stretched, so we're going to come up here to File. We're going to come down to Export As. We're going to come down here to select File Type, and we're going to choose Flexible Image Transport Systems, or FITS file. Select that, and it turns it back into a FIT file. And we're going to save it in my Siril work folder, which in my case I have it on my D drive, so I select D. I find my Siril work folder, which is right here. I click on that, and then I hit Export. So now what's going on is this starless image is being put back into Siril, so we can go ahead and stretch it. So at this time you can close Gimp. You want to maximize Siril back on the screen. You want to come up to Open, and you want to choose the starless image we just imported back into Siril, the one with the GraXpert tag right here. So I'm going to double click on that. You'll get a white screen. That's normal. Come up here to Image Processing. Come down to Generalized Hyperbolic Stretch Transformations. Under Type of Stretch, instead of using Modified Arcsine Transform like we did to stretch the stars, we're going to go ahead and choose Generalized Hyperbolic Transform. Under Color Stretch Model, we're going to leave that as Human Weighted Luminance, and now we're going to start stretching the image. And we just want to do it a little at a time. The temptation to overstretch, especially with a dark nebula object, is very tempting. You want to make sure that you don't take the stretch too far. And we can see things starting to show up there. Okay. Let's go ahead and apply that. So you're seeing some of the detail come out now, but you notice that the image is somewhat grayed out, washed out a bit. That grayness is coming from this section of the graph. All your image data is located within this spike. Everything to the left of the spike is a dead zone. So we have a way of getting rid of that dead zone to take out this grayness. So the way we do that is we come up here to type of stretch. We come down and we locate linear stretch black point shift. And as I take this slide bar to the right, the spike in the graph will move to the left, and you should see most, if not all, of that grayness go away. Okay, that looks pretty good. You want to make sure you don't clip your image, and the way you can keep an eye on that, down here under clip percentage, you want to keep this clip percentage at 0 or as close to it as you can. You can see we can overclip the image by going too far, and what you're doing is you're clipping into the data of your nebula, which we don't want to do. So let's bring it back out and get it to where we just start clipping it and then back it off one step. So we're close there. You can come up to this little fine-tune adjustment and back it off in smaller increments to get it to 0. So there, clip percentage is 0. Image looks pretty good. We're going to go with that. So we hit apply. Let's come up here to type of stretch and go back to generalized hyperbolic transform. This logarithmic scale is a good tool to monitor whether you're getting a good stretch or not. So if you put a check in there, the perfect stretch, which you'll almost never get, is where this spike rises and then it comes down at a 45-degree angle. We're pretty close to a good stretch there. We might have stretched it a little too much, but in this case it might be justified because we're trying to bring out a lot of this hidden area out here, a lot of these hidden clouds. You can try stretching it more and see what you can come up with, but I think you just overdo it and start introducing noise into the image. So I may stretch it just a tiny bit more. Okay, let's go with that and see how we do. We hit apply. Then you want to close this box and remember to come up and save it. Okay, now we're going to go to the upload button. As before, we're going to turn this image back into a TIFF folder, back into a TIFF file. I keep saying folder, it's TIFF file. And we're going to go back to, we're going to put it on my desktop back into my TIFF folder and hit save, and you hit save one more time. Okay, we can now minimize Siril. We're going to go back to Gimp. Okay, now that we're in Gimp, we're going to go grab that starless image that we just stretched in Siril. So we come up to File, Open, Desktop, locate the TIFF folder, select it, and we're going to take the starless image that we just took back out of Siril, which is this one right here. This box will open up, ask if you want to convert to RGB workspace. Just hit keep. And there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and go to view. I want to zoom in on it a little bit just so we can see better what our adjustments are doing to the image. So come down to zoom and fit image and window. All right, let's go up to colors. There is some color to this nebula. There's a bluish color within the bright part of the nebula. So we'll go up to colors and we'll come down to saturation and see if we can bring that a little bit. This box opens up with this slide bar. So we grab that, and as we take it to the right, you'll see the color deepens in the image. You're even getting browns in those surrounding dark clouds, which is what we're looking for. Okay, so I'd say that right there looks pretty good. So click OK. Now the next tool we're going to use is also under colors. We're going to come down to shadows and highlights. This particular function can have a profound image on a dark nebula, a profound effect on the image, especially a dark nebula image like this one. So using the shadows bar, we can bring out more of this hidden structure. It's going to lighten the image overall, so we have to watch out so we don't introduce too much noise to the image. But let's come up here to this shadows slide bar and grab it, and let's take it up, and you'll see in the image it's bringing out a little more detail there with the clouds. You can definitely go too far. See all the noise that we are introducing into the image by taking it too far, especially around the four corners, which we'll try doing a little cropping on that later in the process. So we'll take it back to where it was, see if we can bring it up a little bit to kind of expose those dark cloud areas. All right, that looks pretty good. We can also come down here to white point adjustment. If you notice, the core of the nebula is a little bit washed out. This white point can maybe help with that. You can take this down a little bit and dim that area down some. It has an effect on the over image, but it does help the core. So we'll take that down a little bit. Maybe we can take the shadows up a little bit more now. All right. I think that looks pretty good, so we'll hit OK. All right, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to work on a little bit of sharpening and a little bit of noise reduction. So we'll come up here to Filters. We're going to come down to Enhance. Come over to this box and come down to Sharpen. As soon as I click this, it will automatically add a little bit of sharpening to it. You'll see the image change, become a little sharper when I click on this. So here we go. All right. That looks pretty good. I like that. It sharpened it up pretty good. Didn't really introduce any more noise. This noise in the corner we talked about we'll crop out later. You don't want to crop it out right now in Gimp because we've removed the stars from the image. If you crop this, then you won't be able to join it back to the stars later in Siril. So we want to wait till we're toward the end of the process and the stars are back in the image, and then we can crop it. So that looks really good. Let's see if we can add a little bit of noise reduction to it. So again, we go back up to Filters. We come back down to Enhance, and this time we click on Noise Reduction. As with sharpening, as soon as I click on noise reduction, it will add some noise reduction to the image automatically. So I'll click on it now and you'll see if there's any change. Okay, it softened it up slightly, not too much. Might take the strength down a little bit. So I want to make sure we preserve as much of that clarity as we can. So that looks good there, so I'm going to select OK. Now, we can actually, in Gimp, sharpen it more than this, but I'm getting ready to send this image through Astrosharp, so you don't want to overdo it in Gimp before you send it to Astrosharp. Astrosharp's a great sharpening tool, especially for images where you have a lot of FITS files, a lot of data like this, because you have good signal to noise ratio. As I've stated in other tutorials, Astrosharp doesn't do well on images where you might only have 1,000 FITS or less. It'll actually make your image look worse. But if you've got lots of data and good signal to noise ratio, Astrosharp works pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and take this image to Astrosharp now and see if I was telling you the truth about that. So the first thing we want to do is we want to put this back, save this image back in the TIFF folder. So we're going to hit File, we're going to hit Export As, we're going to leave it a TIFF and put it back in the TIFF folder. When I hit Export, it's going to ask you if you want to replace the old version of this image in the TIFF folder, and you do. So go ahead and click Replace. All right, you have to hit Export one more time. So there we go. We can go ahead and close Gimp, discard the changes. Now we're going to open Astrosharp. Okay, Astrosharp is open. Let's maximize it on the screen. So under Preview, you want to check the full image button there. Under Choose Model, you want to hit that drop down and choose Second Beta. Again, I've tried all these choices, and Second Beta has always worked for me the best by far. So I just always choose Second Beta. you want to make sure to go up to Browse and grab your starless image that you stretched, which is here, and it will load right here in this box. There it is. It's a bit grayed out. That's normal. Don't worry about it. So since we have good signal to noise ratio, we are going to max out the aggressiveness bar. We're going to max out the PSF for DSO. We don't really have any stars in the image, so we'll leave that where it is. And I'm going to hit Update Sliders. You'll see a progress bar open up down here, and the result will be loaded right here. So I'm going to hit Update Sliders, and Astrosharp will do its thing. Okay, it just finished. I did a time jump. It took a few moments. And here's our resulting image from Astrosharp. I'm going to go ahead and download this file back into the TIFF folder. All right, I'm going to X out of Astrosharp. I'm going to go back to the TIFF folder, and I'm going to open up the processed file from Astrosharp and the image before we processed it, and we'll do a comparison here. All right, the unprocessed image is on the left, the processed image is on the right, and I can see a really big change in the sharpness. I hope this translates well to your screen on YouTube, but I can zoom in a little bit on the core. And you should be able to tell there's quite a difference there in the image quality. So Astrosharp did a really good job on this, which means I told you the truth earlier. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and send the star mask through Astrosharp. That's important to do, even if your stars look great and you don't really have to use much of the tools in Astrosharp on the star mask. You still have to send it through Astrosharp. If you send your starless image through Astrosharp and you do not send your star mask through Astrosharp, Siril will not allow you to put them back together. So when we run the star mask through Astrosharp, Astrosharp's going to name it the image processed also. So what I want to do is I want to take our current processed image that we just ran through Astrosharp, and I want to rename it. All I do is put a 1 in front of the word processed. That way you don't have to worry about Astrosharp saving your star mask over your starless image after it processes it. Okay, so we got that done. Let's go ahead and open Astrosharp back up. And there it is. Maximize it. Okay, again, make sure under preview you select full image. Make sure under choose model you select second beta, and we'll browse to get our image out of the TIFF folder, and we want the star mask image right here. And the stars are easy to mess up. The stars already look pretty good, so I'm going to take the aggressiveness level way down and take the PSF levels way down. And I'll go ahead and update slider. We'll get our progress bar here, and we'll get our result right here, the same as we did for the starless image. Okay, there's our resultant image. Let's go ahead and download this file back into the TIFF folder. We can now close Astrosharp. Let's go back to the TIFF folder, and you'll see our star mask is now called processed. So we have one processed, which is our nebula, and we have processed, which is our star mask. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a little housekeeping. I'm going to take all these other files in the TIFF folder and just delete them, because we don't need them anymore. All right, so close out your TIFF folder. Let's open up Gimp again. All right, come up to File, Open. desktop, TIFF folder, and let's open up the one processed first, which is our nebula. Okay, let's go ahead and zoom in on it a bit. In fact, let's zoom way in on it. Let's come down here to zoom and select the fill window option. And now we've zoomed way in on the core there. And let's see if there's anything we can do in GIMP to make it look a little bit better before we export it back to Siril and add the stars back. So let's come up here to colors. Let's check out saturation again, and let's see if we can do anything with the color. Yeah, we don't want to go too far with it. There's that blue that I talked about, and I think that's going way too far with it. Let's come back to where we were. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let's come back up to colors and go to shadows and highlights again. Let's take this white point down, see if we can reduce the glare in the middle a little bit. And we did. Let's see if shadows can bring out any more of the dark cloud. I don't want to come out too much because we just introduced noise. In fact, let's take the view back out so we can see the entire image. Come up here to view, zoom, and fit image in window. And let's see how our shadows bar is affecting everything on the outer edges. Yeah, we definitely don't want to go too far. Thinking that's probably about as far as we should go. So we'll hit OK. All right, let's zoom back in one more time. Go back to view, zoom, fill window. So I've got this sky colored blue artifact right here. I don't really like that, so I'm gonna try removing it. So the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna come up here and select this eraser button. You want to make sure to click on this and make sure that this you want to make sure to select white and make sure this box is white right here. Okay, you want to make sure that your brush size is not too big. You come over to this side and take the brush size down a little bit, maybe a little bit more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I like this yellow color, but I don't like this blue color here. So I'm just going to click over it a few times and get rid of it. I think it's just an artifact from trying to enrich the color a little bit. All right, that looks better. I'm going to accept that. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up to filters and come down to enhance and see if we can sharpen it a little bit more. I think we've got it about as sharp as we can get it, but we'll try it. Again, when I select this sharpen function right here, as soon as I click on it, it will automatically add a little bit of sharpening to the image. And remember, we're zoomed in pretty heavily on the image. So here, I'm going to click on it now. Okay, that added a little bit too much sharpness, so I'm going to take the amount down some, maybe to about there. Let's go ahead and zoom back out and look at the whole image. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad there. As with everything in astrophotography, everything's personal preference. Some of you might agree with me and say, yeah, Jim, that looks pretty good. And somebody else say, that looks like crap. You can do better, but it's all personal preference. But I kind of like our results so far, so I'm going to click OK. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to send this image back to Siril so we can marry the stars back with it. So the way we do that is we come up here to File. We're going to come down here to Export As. I'm going to come down here to select File Type, and I'm going to turn it back into a FITS file by selecting Flexible Image Transport System. See, it turned it back into a FIT file there. And I'm going to go to my D drive, which is where my Siril work folder is. Right here. And I'm going to hit Export. All right, it's back in Siril now. So I'm going to go ahead and X out of Gimp. And then I'm going to open Gimp again. And the reason I do this, I think it's just cleaner and less problematic to close Gimp between images before you load a new image in. Sometimes I've had it work and sometimes it causes problems. I've just gotten a habit of closing everything between images and reopening it. So now we're going to do the star mask. So we're going to come up here to File. We're going to come down to Open. We're going to come down to the desktop. We're going to select the TIFF folder, and we're going to select Processed, which, remember, is the star mask that we sent through Astrosharp. So it's open there. I'm not going to do anything to this. I think the stars look great. It is interesting to note, you see all these dark areas. These are the areas that the dark clouds in the nebula block. So it'll be interesting when we put the nebula back in the image. So I'm going to go ahead and send this to Siril as a FIT file. So I'm going to select Export As. Again, come down here and change it back into a FITS file. And it's going to go in my Siril work folder on my D drive. Right there. We'll hit Export. All right, now we can close Gimp. And now we can get into the final steps here. Open Siril up. This will be interesting. This is the starless image of the nebula before we started processing it in Gimp and Astrosharp. I'm going to load the new result over this and you'll see the difference. So we're going to click Open. We're going to click our one processed here, which is the starless image. As soon as I click on this, you'll see it loaded over the old image and see the difference. All right, quite a difference there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that that's saved. Now we're going to put the stars back in. So let's go with image processing, star processing, and choose star recomposition. So you'll have this box open up. The left side is for the nebula, the right side is for the stars. So we're going to go ahead and come up to this little folder icon, click on it, and we're going to come and choose the one processed, which is our nebula. So it loads it in right there. Now we're going to come to this side and do the same thing. Come up to this little folder icon, select it, and we're going to choose processed, which is our star mask. Okay, the stars are back in. That looks pretty good. In fact, I could almost just leave it there, but let's try a couple things here. Some folks like to remove or take some of the stars down a little bit so that you can see the nebula. But I tell you, this looks good with a lot of stars in it. I might take it down just a little bit to darken the background up a bit. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Really seeing some good detail in these dark, dense molecular clouds out here, and we've actually got the brown color out of it, and you can see where the stars were blocked when we looked at just the star mask earlier. That's looking pretty good. I'm really happy with that. Let's come over here to the nebula side, and let's see what happens if I stretch it a little bit more. Okay, definitely it's adding some noise to it, so I might be able to stretch it out a little bit there. You can use this fine adjustment right here also to make adjustments. That looks nice. I'm happy with that. So if you're happy with what you've got, you'll hit apply on both sides. That locks your results in, and you hit close. So let's go ahead and do a slight crop to get rid of this noise here, here, and up in these corners. I don't want to crop much because there's a lot going on in this image, and you want to save as much of the image as you can. So let's go up here to image processing, come down to geometry, and select that. And we're going to do a rotate and crop. I'm not going to rotate it, but I am going to crop it just a little bit. So it's just a normal cropping. You just grab it, grab the line and bring it up a little bit to kind of get rid of that noise in the center or on the edges. That's all I'm going to crop it. I'm going to hit apply and close. So that looks really good. I think we're done in Siril. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save this image as a PNG file, and I'm going to use the little generic onboard computer editing program to see if we can improve the image a little bit more. So let's do that now. I'm going to come up here to the upload. I'm going to come down to supported image files, and I'm going to save this as a PNG file. You can also save this as a JPEG file, but PNG files retain a lot more information. It's my preference over JPEG. The only downside is it'll use significantly more storage room on your hard drive, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead up here and rename this. This is the Iris Nebula, so I'm just going to name it Iris. And we did this in a tutorial, so I'm going to add tutorial to it. And I'm going to go, and just for ease, I'm just going to put it back into the TIFF folder on my desktop so we can find it easy. And I'm going to save it. All right, we're done with Siril. Let's go to the TIFF folder and open up the image we just took out of Siril. It's right here, Iris Tutorial. Okay, so there it is open. I am not a huge fan of the portrait mode. I like landscape, so let's go ahead and turn this. Not sure which side looks better. That looks pretty good there. I'm going to choose edit. And again, this is just my onboard photo editing software that came with Windows. You have one on your computer too. It might not be this one, but they're very similar. So I'm going to go to adjustment. And let me go to saturation. I might have it slightly oversaturated. I might reduce that saturation down a little bit. You could definitely take it up too much. So there's where we are. I'm going to drop it back a tad. Sharpness, we can see if we can sharpen it anymore. And we start getting some pretty bad artifacts on there if we go too far. In fact, even if we just go slightly. So sharpening is about as far as we're going to be able to take it. Sometimes a little bit of contrast will help. We'll darken the background up a little bit. Highlights. See if that has an effect. It'll definitely wash out your core if you take it up. There's neutral. You can take it down just a little bit so that we don't have too much glare inside the core there. This is really a pretty nebula, and it's worth spending time on. I still have a little bit of noise up in the corners here. You can use Vignette to get rid of that. Grab this slider, and you can see it. It'll darken the edges up and really neutralize that noise well. Because I don't want to crop the image anymore. I want to preserve the dark clouds I was able to get there. See what else we can do. Adjusting the shadows slider now. Trying to find a happy point. Trying to use it to control some of this noise we have out in here. This is kind of a consequence of us trying to get a sharp core and to bring as much of the dark cloud structure out. So, shadows. Highlights down just a little bit more. All right. I'm happy with that. Again, this is a fairly difficult object for those of you who have tried to image this. It takes a lot of observation to bring out that dark cloud cover. So I think I'm going to go ahead and call this one finished. I hope you like it. I hope you got something out of this tutorial. I did want to make one announcement. I will be going to Colorado next month, and I'll be taking both Seestars with me up into the Rocky Mountains, and I'm going to do some extensive testing on the scenery mode for both scopes to be upcoming in a future video. And I'll be taking some of my other astrophotography hardware, trying to get some Milky Way images over the Rocky Mountains, and we'll be testing the scopes out on what I hope will be some Bortle 1 or at least Bortle 2 skies. So I'll be out there for 3 weeks, so I should be able to gather a lot of material for some upcoming videos, so stay tuned for that. Please like and subscribe. I'm always looking for constructive criticism and suggestions in the suggestion area, so please leave your remarks and suggestions you have, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.